What's really cool about great alumni involvement is that the boys just get to know that you're a part of the organization. They trust you, they know that you're there to enforce the rules, but they get to play the game. And the more you're there, the less intrusive you become and the more natural your brothers become. So how does all this fit into pledge education? Well, you can't be in the chapter house all the time. You can't dictate everything that's going to happen during the 8-week Pledgeship program. So the best thing you can do is to ask the right questions. For the chapter advisor, the brother, just a little bit older, you should always have your antennas up. You should always be listening. You should always be looking for what is not said, but is being done. The first year that I was a chapter advisor, we had a pledge manual, and we do this in our chapter. It's an 8-week playbook that the Pledge Education Committee uses, and they go through and they check things off with the brothers. But my first year, I didn't know that there were two. There was one for me, and there was one for everybody else. Antennas up. Because the biggest thing that you want to be looking for is there any subtle hazing going on in your chapter? And subtle hazing is very easily defined as anything that happens to the pledge class that does not happen to the seniors or the juniors or the sophomores. And if you can define that clearly for your exec board and your pledge education committee and share with them your values of what we should be doing to build up our brothers, you'll have a great year. You put the burden on them by asking the right questions and by setting the proper expectations. You cannot be the new chapter advisor and be in that house 24 hours a day during the pledge program. So let's talk about goals. I think that all programming in a chapter should have SMART goals. And SMART goals are specific, they're measurable, they have action steps. So we take the major vision or the major goals and we break them down into concrete little steps that are going to get done each week. And in my chapter, I know what the steps are and I know who is assigned to do them. I do not monitor the goals because as a chapter advisor, I don't feel like that's my responsibility. I do ask the brothers to put goals together, I do ask them to write them down, and I do ask them to hold each other accountable. And we talk about goals in our exec meeting every Tuesday night. Goals are written and they have specific deadlines. The other key thing for your Pledge Education Committee, besides having SMART goals, is to communicate those goals clearly to the entire chapter so that every brother knows what is going on, what the pledges are doing, and what the actives are expected to be doing. You don't want rogue actives interfering with your pledge program. If you're going to have a Pledge Ed manual, I think this should be a public document. Why keep a secret what your pledge program is all about? If your pledge program is really good, this should stand the scrutiny of public censure. We purposely share this with the Dean of Student Life. We purposely share this with the Greek advisor, and we ask her to comment on it. We don't like all of her comments. Some of the things that she says we think are a little bit over the top for a fraternity, but we do seek her advice and counsel. And then we do what we think is best for our fraternity. We also share this with our chapter field consultant when he visits with us in the fall and again in the spring. We're always looking for best practices, and we realize that the best ideas sometimes come from outside the box. But the key to great pledgeship is to build up new members, not to make great pledges. Pledgeship only lasts for 8 weeks. I don't want a great pledge. I want a great brother that's going to be committed to the fraternity for the next 4 years and the rest of his life. So as a great advisor, I learned a long time ago from a great teacher, it's not about telling others what to do. It's really about empowering the undergraduates so that they make the best decisions. And I think as a new advisor, the best advice I can give is simply ask the right questions. You can't tell undergraduates what to do because as soon as you leave the building, they're going to do what they want to do. Ask the right questions and see if they come to the best decisions. And then, as a good referee, just help them stay on the playing field. Keep them within the rules. Here are 4 of the questions that I ask. What should every new member know on the eve of their initiation? What is it that makes every new recruit and new member a great member of this chapter and future DELT? We hope that those new members understand a lot of our process. We hope that they're firmly grounded in truth, faith, power, and courage and the other mission principles of Delta Tau Delta. We hope that they're ready to assume membership in our chapter. We don't keep our chapter business a secret from the pledges. In fact, in about week 6, they come to a chapter meeting. In week 7, they come to a pass the gavel with the full chapter. And week 8, which is our initiation week, is pretty amazing how much they're thinking like regular brothers. They're anticipating the initiation, the ritual, and being passed the secrets of the fraternity, but they're not exhausted. They're not totally run down. This is simply one stage, and they're moving from pledgeship to membership. So here's the second question that I asked the exec board and I asked the pledge committee. What is it that you want your members to model in forms of behavior for the new pledges, for the new members? People learn by watching others. For 8 weeks, the pledges are going to be intensely watching the actives of our chapter. What will they be learning? So what's the model of behavior that you want to emphasize for those 8 weeks? Our pledges are our future brothers, and having anything that separates them by class, let's go back to subtle hazing. You don't want to have subtle hazing. You want everybody to be in this together, pulling together from day one. So the third question I asked is what's really most important for our chapter? Is it pledge class unity, or is it a well-built brotherhood for the entire chapter? Last questions I'll ask my pledge board is, what would Mama say? Would she be proud of our activities? Would she be pleased with what her little boy is doing in pledgeship? It's important that we be transparent, that we be building men of character and values and building lives of excellence. What would Mama say? Would you make her proud? For the fraternity chapter that I advise, the pledge program runs very efficiently, like a well-oiled machine. And there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one, there's a written pledge program. There's a manual that's handed down from last year to the new pledge education director. He has 3 assistants that work with him to keep the train on the track. But having a written outline with your SMART goals helps the entire program. Another thing that we do is that we empower the new recruits to become a functioning organization within our chapter. They elect officers, they run their own meetings, they plan their own philanthropic project, they plan their own house project, and they come to chapter meetings. They model the behavior of a successful chapter so that when they become brothers, they're ready to fully integrate and understand how our chapter operates. As a chapter advisor, I would encourage you to go to some pledge meetings. I like going to the first one because it allows the new recruits to get to know me and know that I'm available. Don't expect any pledge to call you up and say, I'm being hazed. That just isn't going to happen. Remember, you always have to have antennas up. You have to be listening for what is not being said. But you need to be an integral part of the pledge committee by being there. Again, you're the referee on the field so that everybody knows you're there to enforce the rules. The pledges know that you're there to help manage the chapter and to provide alumni leadership. The next great thing that you could do is involve more alumni than just yourself. If you can get other alumni to come in and serve as a pledge education sponsor, that's terrific. If you can get alumni to come in and serve with the social committee, that's terrific. If you can get alumni to come in and serve with the Rush committee, that's absolutely terrific. Some of you won't be fortunate enough to have a big committee, but when you can, invite local alumni to come in and just speak for an evening. Don't go back there and let them rehash what they did 20 years ago at their old chapter. Some of those shenanigans you do not want brought forward to this year.